It's time to take a closer look at some more AI security stuff, and I alluded to it in an earlier story, but Anthropic's new Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5 models that we can't get a hold of anymore highlight a growing challenge in AI. Those really powerful systems are also some of the hardest to keep safe. The company is separating advanced AI capabilities from stronger safety controls by limiting the most capable model to trusted users while routing risky requests from general users to a somewhat safer version. There's an article that we're going to link in the show notes that argues that this approach could shape the future of AI, while privacy and security and governance are going to become premium features instead of things that, we would expect to be bundled in. That raises a whole lot of legal and ethical questions for AI companies. Should AI safety features be included for every user of your model, or is it reasonable for companies to charge more for stronger protections? Al, what do you think?
Imagine for a moment that you're running an AI, you're the provider of an AI tool that's being used by a person of ill intent, and it's used to attack a government institution. Now, clearly, the person of ill intent is going to be in trouble, but is the AI provider also going to be in trouble? Are they going to be able to claim safe harbor kind of deals the same as the internet providers? Maybe not. So maybe these AI providers are going to have to build the security in here. They're going to have to build the attribution and recording. And part of the announcement in here was talking about retaining activity in the highly capable models for 30 days, which is presumably about being able to take forensic action and blame the actual user rather than the blame falling on the model provider. I think there's definitely some complications in here, and I'm expecting that this rolls out, that these model providers have the same duty of care for safety and security that any other normal infrastructure provider has. That they will be held liable for users being able to misuse their tools. Let's remind ourselves as well that AI has no morals. There is no ethics and morals in a large language model. We've seen that they can be very willingly co-opted into doing things that are well known to be bad and undesirable. That, by my definition, means that they are amoral. And so we have to put controls around these definitely powerful tools, and those controls need to be put in there by the providers of the tools. It will be the same as Winchester handing rifles out to 12-year-olds and saying we're not responsible for the way the 12-year-olds use the rifles. That certainly wouldn't be permitted in my country, and I don't think it'd be permitted in your country either. So yeah, the controls need to be put in there by the providers of these models, and they're supposed to be the ones who know the capabilities of the models and know where the dangers lie, at least the most obvious dangers. We're always going to be behind the times on this. I think, Tom, you see this in security all the time, is that the bad guys only have to be successful once, whereas the defenders have to be successful all of the time.
The IRA Maggie Thatcher quote. It's evergreen, unfortunately. I want to go back to something you said about the Winchester rifles, because it's actually a really good example of this. Should the provider be held liable for the actions of users using their product? There have actually been some ideas here in the US, which, as is known all over the world, is a bastion of that particular kind of freedom, where there has been a significant amount of pushback against the idea of holding the manufacturers liable for crimes, deaths, destruction that were caused by their product, right? But yet, if it was anything other than firearms, if it was milk, if it was explosives, we would want to sue those companies out of existence, sorry. There are certain things that seem to have this aura of protection around them. As mentioned, firearms are one of them, especially in the US. I think AI is getting to that point because we have spent the last 2 years hearing how revolutionary and paradigm shifting and, transformational AI is. And I mean, and then I read a story today where people are trying to teach AI to speak like a caveman in its responses to shave 100 tokens off the response because it's costing them a small fortune. And you're right, AI is amoral. It lacks context for morality. I just wrote a blog post about this on my own personal blog at networkingnerd.net about how AI is not malicious, because I had originally said, oh, well, AI is this malicious genie. I said it on a Security Boulevard episode. It's not. It lacks context. It just does the easiest thing to get the answer. And if the easiest thing is, sure, we don't need seatbelts or airbags or crumple zones or any of that other stuff in a car, then why are we going to put it in there? And that is the problem, is that efficiency often is at the expense of what we would consider to be full featured, right? Could you imagine today buying a car that doesn't have seatbelts, that doesn't have airbags, that doesn't have air conditioning? Yes, you can still buy a car that does not have air conditioning. There are very few places that you can, because it is considered to be standard equipment. And it's so standard that, it's weird. Like, here's another good example. You can buy a car without a spare tire. I have experience with this just a few years ago. It's a line item. You specifically tell them to take like $800 off the cost of the car, and they will send you a car that doesn't have a spare tire on it. And the reason for them is simple. It's because if they can get like 3 of these cars with no spare tires on it, that's less weight that they have to ship, because they have to pay by the pound to ship them. But what it means for you is, oh, well, everybody has roadside assistance, unless you're in the middle of nowhere and roadside assistance wants to charge you $1,200 to come change your tire. Well, then you're really stuck. Nobody thinks about the edge cases, and that's the problem here. Everyone assumes that the system is going to run perfectly with no exceptions, and there's never going to be any problems. And we all know that's a lie. No matter what, no matter how, no car runs perfectly forever. No system runs perfectly forever. The exceptions are how we measure the effectiveness of the system. There's this excellent episode of the Mythbusters years ago where Adam Savage was talking about building a display to go in a storefront, and it was basically all it was doing, knocking a ball into a holder, and it was designed to run 24/7, right? Well, he found out that there was a certain percentage of the time that the ball would not get knocked back into the hole. And what he didn't realize is that because the thing was running 24/7, what that meant was that there would be no more balls in the display after like a day and a half. Because even like 0.01% of the time still means that it's going to happen like once every day or something like that. And they don't understand that, because when you're doing this at scale, if 0.00001% of the population gets an exception or causes a problem, that's something that could be triggered once an hour with the number of people that they want to have using this. And I don't think that these things should be premiums. I don't think that people should say, oh, well, you can run the flat out model and maybe we'll protect you from yourself, but if you pay extra, you get protections. I think it should be the other way around. You should get the protected version no matter what. You should be forced to pay if you want to turn those safeguards off. Because if you agree to that, and it's like the whole, I need you to scroll all the way to the bottom of the list, and I need you to type in I agree, and I need you to sign this in blood, you agree that you have just turned off all of the things that will protect you from doing dumb things, and that should be the privilege.